I'm Johanna Skoris. I'm a psychotherapist and an author of a self-help book called Standing Up for Yourself, The Art of Self-Assertion. I've done several videos on YouTube, and I thought perhaps today I'll just actually talk about the book itself. Um, I wrote the book several years ago because as a psychotherapist, I kept finding that my clients had the same issues that I had had back in my 20s. So I thought, okay, I'll talk about myself. I'll talk about the bad choices that I made, the desperation and despair that kind of pursued me most of my youth. So, part one basically is a story about a doomed journey, trying to run away from yourself. It's not a very easy thing to do, obviously. Um, I talk about, it's the 60s, a time when you basically slept with anything that moved. So I could condone my behavior of being sexually promiscuous when I was really trying to run away from shame and guilt, my fears, my angers, stuff that I couldn't actually express to my mother. So I was actually finished up my freshman year at Boston University, kind of bored with life. I said, I want to actually see the world, not read about it. So I had done some portrait modeling in Boston, and so I decided I'm going to go off to Europe, and I'll do some modeling at all the art schools in London, Paris, and so forth. So with a one-way ticket and $100, I basically stayed in Europe for a couple of years, still trying to find myself, but running, running, running. So there was lots of adventure, lots of sex, and lots of despair, trying to run from the shadow of my mother, who always seemed to be present no matter what I did. Um, I talk about the issues that deal with desperation, and I had the delusion that perhaps sex was really going to lead to love. Very unlikely theory, but when you're 20 years old, you don't have much logic or capable um, ability to look at your own behavior without assistance. I didn't know I had loose screws. I thought all the relationships that I was trying to have were basically the fault of the men. So, I kind of started to realize that, all the relationships, I don't know why this is coming on now, sorry, all of the relationships that I had, I started to recognize perhaps my good girl attitude of trying to be so accommodating, so avoiding conflict, agreeable with everybody. I thought this, if I was an ideal person, then obviously this would lead to love. But somehow, it seemed all relationships began and ended in bed. And still, I couldn't quite figure out what is wrong with the situation. I'm being the ideal person. I didn't know you have to be a real person. I was too young to understand it, too desperate. When the last relationship did dissolve, I finally started to realize I think I'm the one. I always used to say, well, I want to be a sculptor. And we all know what it's like to talk the talk. It doesn't require anything. As long as you say it, it's as good as doing it. But I didn't know I was terrified of commitment because whether you fail or succeed, it's still an investment and a reflection on yourself as a human being, as somebody who is capable or not capable. So if you don't do anything, you never win or lose. Anyway, I finally realized I think this last relationship, it's got to be me. So on June 2nd, 1975, I decided on Memorial Day weekend I'd take a drive up to Vermont and just started to look inside myself to figure out. It's a gorgeous landscape if everybody's been to Vermont at least once. Gives you a chance to really look at yourself. On my second day, as I was leaving Brattleboro, traveling up Route 30, I heard a little voice inside myself say, "Put up or shut up." It was like, oh dear God, who said that? It's my guilty conscience of having been what is called a dilettante, a fake. Somebody who, again, like I said, talks about things but never really gets involved. And I guess I don't know exactly how I felt at the time, it's such a long time ago, but I know that as I continued to travel north, I passed a farmhouse that had a for rent sign dangling in front of it. Turned my car around, screeching, into the driveway of this little farmhouse, wrote down the phone number, and long story short, I moved into that farmhouse with 400 pounds of self-hardening clay, and in about 3 years, I became a professional sculptor. Now, this also was kind of opportune. There was a local village guy who I'll call him Adonis. He was astonishing. He became my model, and he was probably as innocent as I was sophisticated. We kind of needed a little bit of what each other had. And I would learn without his intention that I really had a terror of physical intimacy. I was trying to be intimate through sex, but it doesn't work that way. His touch really started to make me aware of what I was missing. I remember the first night that he stayed over. His arm was around me in bed, and I just lay there totally frozen, not sure what to do, not sure about the feelings that were overwhelming me. And I used to be able to swim nude in the water holes because in Vermont at the time, and I think it still is, you can actually swim nude if it's appropriate. You're away from kids and stuff like that. And in that cold water, became more aware of my own body, the sensations, that I really did have a fear of physical intimacy. Because physical intimacy awakens the heart. And if you awaken the heart, it means you awaken your feelings. You get in touch with anger, frustration, fear, resentment, everything I was running from. I had no tools to handle conflict. So what I did was I just avoided them. But the danger is you continue to run very desperately away from people towards something that you don't even know what it is you're striving for, but it's running. So all of this started to make me become very aware that I need to be able to express how I feel to somebody. It's so basic, and it's everything that I keep repeating in the videos. But when it finally dawned on me, and in the book I take you through the journey with this young man, and how astonishing was the experience with somebody who could only be himself. He was a village guy who lied to me about his age, and he remains in my heart as somebody who unintentionally awakened me to myself. So that's all part one. I was a bartender in Germany at an army hotel in Munich, taught English in Greece, again, modeled in London for like 75 cents an hour. But I kept a journal every time I modeled for a sculpture class. And that same journal, actually, I used in order to teach myself how to sculpt. So long story short, in about, I would say, 5 years of time, I actually became a professional sculptor and did portraits, did workshops, stuff like this. I would eventually go back to school and become a psychotherapist and do these little YouTube videos. And I felt that I wanted to explain more about why the book has its value and what it is that you could benefit from as a reader instead of just a viewer on brief videos. So part one is about a personal journey that folks who have made bad choices like myself might be able to identify with and learn everything I did wrong. And then ultimately in part two, I offer the tools in order to really learn how to deal with conflict, how to make better choices. Once you have these tools, basically, you will be able to stand up for yourself. Nobody will ever be able to reduce you and control you. It's a significant experience that if you've never known it, to be able to say no to someone, to walk away from a situation, from whether it's an abusive person or doing something that you truly don't want to do, but you don't know how to easily, if at all, walk away. So this is the book. It's an easy read. The first part is interesting, fun, adventurous, a little disturbing in parts because of the raw truths, but it may be able to change your life, to give you some measure of hope that life doesn't have to suck and then you die. You can make changes in which you really learn to like yourself. We're always saying, well, what do I love about myself? Well, just starting with some real basics. like liking. So if you have any questions, contact me at YouTube. I'd love to get back to you. Bye-bye.